Kia ora and welcome back to the Happy Saver podcast. I'm Ruth, a personal finance blogger here in Aotearoa, and in this podcast I chat with a diverse bunch of people and I just learn their story and then I condense it down so that you can hear helpful, relatable stories from Kiwis who are sharing their experiences, their tips and their point of view on personal finance in New Zealand. I met 19-year-old Josie in mid-2023 when she emailed me with some questions about money, strangely enough. She had heard of me and I actually already knew a little bit about her because her mum and I have been in contact for a number of years chatting about personal finances over email. Josie hoped that I might be able to answer a few of her questions too, and the answer was, of course, yes. In emails I'd had back and forth with her mum, we talked about how important it was to teach the next generation about pūtea, and my conversations with Josie proved that this financial knowledge had definitely been handed on to the next generation. Josie mentioned that her mum had sparked an interest in personal finances in her, which had led her to do a lot of reflecting on her money skills. So now was the perfect time to do it, she thought, because she had been out of school and working for a couple of years. She'd managed to save up a solid chunk of money and was planning on heading into study in 2024. Her intention was to get through her study with no student loan, which is entirely possible to do if you plan well ahead. However, there was one small problem. She had also caught the travel bug, and with a huge urge to travel, she knew it had the potential to be pricey. So her question to me was, how could she balance living in the now while planning for the future? And how could she set herself and her pūtea up to do both? So it's fair to say that not many 19-year-old wahinis are filling my inbox with such good questions. So the emails back and forth began, and I learned enough about Josie to know that she would make an inspiring guest for my podcast. But before I go on, let me tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Pocketsmith. Okay, you've got me, I'll admit it, I'm the money nerd in our household. I genuinely enjoy keeping a very close eye on Pocketsmith as it tracks our retirement funds, our investments, the value of our home, and of course the daily flow of money into our mini bank accounts. The details fascinate me, numbers fascinate me. But my husband Johnny, not so much. He just wants to know we're doing okay, but he is just not interested in all those details. We both think of money differently. Pocketsmith is aware of this as it lets me create a custom dashboard that shows Johnny the same information I see, but differently, in far less detail, meaning he still gets to play an active role in our joint financial planning using information that makes sense to him. If you have a spouse trying to opt out of talking about your money, I think Pocketsmith might be the secret weapon to bring you together and foster healthy conversations around money in your home. If you want to supercharge your finances with Pocketsmith, have we got a deal for you. Happy Saver listeners get a whopping 50% off your first 2 months of Pocketsmith's foundation plan. To get your deal, go to pocketsmith.com/the Happy Saver. That's pocketsmith.com/the Happy Saver. The day of our korero was a warm one, and Josie was actually laying on the beach with her friends in Dunedin for the duration of our chat, which has to be a first. The first thing that struck me was that she was more than happy for her friends to eavesdrop on her entire conversation about money, making me happy to know that talking openly about money is, thankfully, becoming less of a taboo topic. Now, unbeknownst to Josie at the time, as I mentioned, I've spoken at length about money with her mum, and I know that she and Josie's dad went on a journey of their own as they got their own financial house in order over the last 5 years, and they paid off student loans, then paid off their mortgage, and they just really began to build their ETF investments. Before that, they had meandered along in life, as many of us do, and because of their own late start in financial education, they decided it was important to teach their two tamariki about money before they left home. And Josie is the proof that talking to your children about all aspects of money really does work. So, given she is only 19, soon to be 20, what does she recall learning about money growing up? She said she was taught to save 50% of everything she earned from her paper run and odd jobs she did as a young teen, and to put that money into a savings account to be put towards something bigger that she wanted to buy. She learned that getting what you want came from working hard towards it, and if she wanted or needed extra cash, she could ask her parents for extra jobs to do. In effect, though, she was still spending 100% of what she earned, until in the last couple of years when her mum started to look beyond those short-term savings accounts to actual investing and thinking about how Josie might plan to save up for and pay cash for university. At the age of 15, Josie got her first proper after-school job working in a cafe. She worked 4 shifts a week, which totalled about 20 hours, which is a lot of mahi on top of full-time schooling. So I asked how she got this job. She'd been talking about working a proper job for a while, so her mum helped her through the process. She helped Josie create a CV, and then she drove her to a local cafe which she kind of loosely knew the owners of. Before sending Josie inside, they role-played how the conversation would go down, what Josie should ask, and how she might respond to questions she might get from the owners. So in she went, and out she came with a start date of Saturday with an hourly rate of $16.50. The cafe was close to home, meaning she could bike herself to and from work. And can I just say, hats off to her mother here. Josie was clearly keen to work and outgoing enough to approach the owners and ask for work, but having a parent coach her on the process is such a critical step for teenagers, I think. As adults, we know how to apply for work, and this is a simple skill that we can teach our tamariki to set them up for success. Josie said that her parents are brilliant at teaching these life skills, and I completely agree. The managers of the cafe came to love her, and Josie loved the work. 20 hours each week is a lot, particularly in those final 3 years of school when there is a lot going on. So how did she manage it? She said that she had always been a very good student and was very social and involved at school, and she may have slipped a little, but overall working didn't hold her back from getting top grades. So what would she say to a high school student who was keen to work today? Do what works for you. Don't burn yourself out with working and going to school, and finding that balance really depends on who you are as a person. At the age of 15, money was a big motivator for Josie. She wanted to earn some of her own and watch some savings build up, but looking back, 10 hours a week might have been better, and she considers herself lucky that she didn't have to pour massive amounts of time into her studies, which came quite easily to her. Hospitality was a great first career for Josie. She said that you learn so much about people because you have to engage with all types, and it's a universal skill that makes you employable all over the place. She was earning about $330 a week gross, which was probably about $280 after tax, and saved some of her money in her Rabobank savings account. But she also started spending a large chunk of it, she said. This is a lot of money for a 15-year-old, and it gave Josie an inkling that money gives you a bit of freedom. She said that she indulged her 15-year-old self. A bigger and better phone was always the goal, and it still is, although, to this day, she has only ever bought second-hand mobile phones and can't bear the thought of paying $800 plus for a new phone. She spent a lot of money on clothes, and the money she earned started heading out the door pretty fast. At around this point, sometime in 2019, she said she noticed that her mum started developing an interest in money and talking about it out loud. Her parents' newfound knowledge, it really couldn't have come at a better time for Josie. She helped Josie set up some sinking fund bank accounts to save up for her phone bill and set some savings goals, and she also helped her set up an emergency fund. So as a result, Josie began to rein in her shopping, stopping a bad habit from forming, that is, spending all that you earn. As most teens do, they start getting asked what they want to do when they grow up. And like many, Josie had no idea what she might want to do outside of the hospitality industry skills that she was developing. And her mum said something incredibly important to Josie, and something I say to my own daughter. It's okay not to know what you might want to do one day, but if you manage your pūtea well from the get-go, when you do decide what you want in life, you will have the money available to help you do it. She kept her hospitality job throughout COVID, and when she finished school with merit endorsement in 2021 at the end of year 13, aged just 17, she went full-time into hospitality work, moved to a different job in one of Dunedin's most beautiful cafes out on the Otago Peninsula, and she increased her income as the minimum wage increased. Although tertiary education is something that she wanted to do, Now was not the time to do it, given that she really didn't know what avenue to go down. Therefore, working for a while was the right thing for Josie to do. Sometimes, though, business was quiet, so if they didn't have the hours that she wanted at work, she had no qualms about picking up other random work around Dunedin. And I just love this energy that she has to stay busy. And at one point, she was working 7 days a week between working in a shoe store and as a barista. She said that her employers were always generous with adjusting her hours around doing her own thing, even if that included going away for a bit. And I think this just comes from knowing that she was such an asset to their team. So after working full-time all summer, in 2022, she found an opportunity to do a 1-month work exchange up in Christchurch with a woman who Josie explained as a horsey lady, which I guess meant she worked in the equestrian industry. And as a keen rider, she said it was an epic month where she learned a lot, had the best time, and lived for free in return for helping on the farm. She then returned to her restaurant work once she was done, tucking these newfound skills into her list of things that she could now do. Next, a friend invited her to spend a few weeks with her and her whānau in Rarotonga, and Josie paid for her flights and all her spending money, but they very generously paid for accommodation and food, and this experience gave her a taste of what international travel could be like. She then started back into full-time work, sometimes working multiple jobs, in Dunedin, before jumping across the ditch to Australia to backpack by herself for 3 weeks, doing a work exchange in return for accommodation, and staying in hostels before meeting up with family for Christmas over there. Now, what I see developing here is a person who enjoys working, is good at saving money, is excellent at finding interesting opportunities, and has the desire to travel and is learning how to do it cheaply. So how did she feel about spending money as she travelled? Her mum had told her to put money aside because you never know what you might need it for. So when she found something to spend it on, she had no qualms about spending it. But her mum had made her mindful of not just blowing it. Josie began working out for herself that she didn't really even enjoy the touristy things that involved spending a lot of money, such as shopping, eating at restaurants, and paying for attractions. She tried to travel this way, but ultimately she found that spending money on those things, it didn't really bring her any happiness. But every time she stayed in a backpacking hostel and took in a scenic and free tourist site, she met interesting people and had the time of her life. So in January of 2023, she returned to her previous job in Dunedin and put her hand up for as many shifts as they would give her. With tourism really resurging after COVID, there was plenty of work to be had, and she managed about 50 hours a week. She was earning $1,000 a week as an 18-year-old, and she worked so much that she didn't have much time to spend any of this money. She also had to go into bat for herself a few times to secure better positions at work, which is just another tool in her toolbox, the ability to advocate for yourself with an employer. Given she was earning good money, I asked if she paid rent at home. She said that her parents mentioned her paying rent once, but she said she'd just move out. But they did reach a compromise. They saw that Josie was working really hard, managing herself and her money well, and that living cheaply would give her a good opportunity to get ahead. But living at home while free, including the use of the family car, it was not a free ride. So on a daily basis, Josie said that she is contributing to the household's running, not using her parents as a full-service hotel. Now, her mum will be listening to this episode, and I would imagine that at this point she is either raising her eyebrows here or nodding her head in agreement. Josie feels really lucky to have such a good relationship with her parents, and she said that if she had been hard to get along with, it would have been a different story. She looks to her mum for adulting advice and says that life is complicated, so why wouldn't the people who love you most help you out instead of kicking you out? And I agree. Her financial plans at that time involved around saving up for university. She decided that by the end of 2023, she would have saved $20,000 to head into study in 2024. She would remain living at home, keeping her costs low. But as the year progressed, and because she had worked so hard, she actually managed to save up $28,000. Having developed a good habit of saving money in her bank account, I asked about investing in the share market, something I knew she had been discussing with her whānau. She joined KiwiSaver when she got her first job. Her mum helped her sign up, and her employer also encouraged her to do so, plus they gave her employer contributions. It's a myth that those under the age of 18 don't receive employer contributions. It is at the employer's discretion. But in my experience, many do offer it, so do make sure you ask. Josie's current KiwiSaver balance is about $4,500 and her provider is Simplicity, and she is in a high growth fund. Since the age of 18, she has been making sure that she has contributed enough in her KiwiSaver via employee contributions or voluntary contributions to receive the $521 from the government each year. She had also started investing with the passive investment provider Superlife, which is managed by SmartShares, which is a subsidiary of the NZX. Her parents seeded her account with $500 to get her started. Then she started contributing $10, then $20, then $90 a week as her confidence grew. She said it's a mix of the US 500 and New Zealand top 50, plus some global investments too, about 10% she thought. And when we spoke in January of 2024, her balance was $12,660. I also know, having spoken with her mother, that her parents have also been investing a small amount of money each month for a number of years in a similar fund for Josie and her sibling to use towards education one day. Now, in her whānau, Josie says that she is known for her left field plans, and she decided that because she had some extra money, she wanted an adventure before 2024 began. So she Googled backpacking in Scandinavia and an idea was born. Over a month, she monitored Skyscanner's website for cheap flights before nabbing a one-way ticket on Air China to Copenhagen for $1,175. Her leaving date would be in mid-September 2023. It was mid-June when she started emailing me asking for some life advice about living in the now whilst also financially preparing for her future. Now, without knowing too much about her situation, I said something like, if you are working right now, then work hard, earn as much as you can, save as much as you can, begin to invest money for long-term growth, live as cheaply as you can, go without. With your income, set a weekly amount into a bank account called travel and do some travel with this money. You will not be heading to Europe on this, and little did I know that these plans were already afoot, but you can travel cheaply around Aotearoa. Memories are made during these trips, I said. Foreigners rave about our country and you get to live here full-time, Josie. Fancy trips to far-off places can come later. Explore New Zealand cheaply. So it turns out that I was wrong about the Europe bit, but right about New Zealand. I pointed out that she was young, full of energy, fabulous, and had plenty of time to build a great life. I also encouraged her to put money aside for study, live at home as long as she could, given she lives in the town that she could easily study in, and begin to test out as many jobs as possible, just to gauge what interests her in life. I encouraged her to find people who work in jobs that she suspects might interest her and ask them about their job, and to begin to lay her financial foundations now because life only gets more complicated. And if you handle money well now at the age of then 18, you will handle it well when you are old, like me, I said. So little did I know that her brief backpacking trip in Australia had sparked her interest, and in July of 2023 she began 2 full months backpacking down the entire length of New Zealand. Her family had organised a trip to see the sights north of Auckland, and when that was over, Josie set out on her own to make her way south. What was her budget for this trip, I hear you ask? A mere $500. An impossible task if you ask me, and her budget did blow out to, wait for it, $1,000. That's just $16 a day. She utilised Facebook groups that post driving plans so you can ride share, and given New Zealand is a small country and she's outgoing, it was not hard to find mates or family friends happy to give her their couch for the night for free, perhaps in return for a bit of mahi. She'd already worked out that transport and hostels cost a lot, making her quickly search for alternatives such as house and pet sitting for free accommodation. She can cook nutritious meals cheaply, and living out of a backpack limited her ability to shop and acquire stuff, and exploring the great outdoors is usually free. She clearly also had a lot of time to think about the direction of her life as she made her way south. She told me that she'd read the book Die With Zero by Bill Perkins, and it had genuinely changed the direction of her life. I think she had actually already been living the philosophy of that book, which is to gather experiences while young, but this helped crystallize her thoughts a little better. She understood the concept of using money well at the time of life you are in. Before you get concerned, it's not just about blowing your money. It's an excellent book, well worth a read. She had also taken the opportunity her mum set up for her to talk to one of her co-workers about the job they did, and that job, in a human resources type role, was apparently, to Josie, insanely appealing. She was in a constant state of acquiring new experiences. As she moved down the country with no car, I should point out, she did no paid work but joined the WOOF and Workaway networks, where you work for 4 to 6 hours in return for bed, food, and a bunch of new experiences. Her costs were low. A $9 a month phone plan with the provider skinny, and if she was not eating with her host family, she was eating very cheaply on her own. This was her first big trip, all organised by her, and she did miss the comfort of home and being with the people, your whānau, who know your brain and know you inside out, she said. But if she stayed a decent length of time somewhere, she found that the people she was staying with really did welcome her into their home, and she much preferred that to moving from hostel to hostel every few days. Soon enough, though, her New Zealand adventure was over, and in September she flew to Europe. She had budgeted to spend $8,000 in total for her 90-day trip. She said that everything was so different from home, and backpacking solo, so far away from home, was at times an emotional roller coaster. But she absolutely loved living in the moment as she wandered around new places, watching people live their lives on the other side of the world. It was fascinating, she said. And she used all the frugal hacks she could to save on accommodation, avoided expensive restaurants, and connected with people that she'd met while woofing and doing workaways in New Zealand. She got sick of city life pretty fast and, wanting to get back to nature, found workaways in the middle of nowhere, staying to work for a few weeks at a time. While travelling, she used a debit card and a Wise card, which is formerly known as TransferWise. She met people and made friends and travelled with them off and on. She basically did what you should do on these trips, gave anything a go, and as a result she met incredible people and created memorable experiences. One email she sent me during this trip made me laugh. She said that her recent experiences with handling money had sparked a curiosity about the financial decisions that others make. When she meets new people, she says she finds herself constantly wondering how they have built their lives and why. And now, instead of just wondering, she straight up asks them, leading her to meet some true characters, she said. Now, I can completely relate to this. And as she said, one conversation had led to the opportunity of potentially buying a townhouse in Italy. And what were my thoughts about renting it out as an Airbnb? I replied that she did indeed seem to be living a life pretty full, which was awesome. I advised her to keep enjoying herself, only don't buy a home in Italy. I said, we've all been somewhere in the world and had a fabulous time and wanted to hold on to a piece of that amazing feeling, but perhaps she should buy a souvenir tea towel instead, not a house. And in the meantime, keep investing a part of all you earn and you'll be back exploring Italy again in no time. Josie found that not receiving a steady income while she travelled and having her savings remain static was hard for her, which led her to search for a side hustle that she could do while on the move. She had no luck there, but may do for future travel. And although she was spending money and not replenishing her accounts while she travelled, everything that she did spend money on had been worth the experience. And to reference the book Die With Zero, she found that juggling good decisions and living while you're young isn't always easy, but she thinks she managed to find her happy balance. Because she did such a great job wherever she worked, her workaway reviews built up and made people want her services even more. So she worked anywhere from riding horses bareback through forests, if you can call that work, to working at a Christmas tree farm. And with 2 weeks to go, her parents told her that if she could get herself to Australia, they'd meet her there for Christmas and pay her flight home to New Zealand from there. So she booked a flight from Rome to Brisbane for $1,000 and reunited with her whānau for Christmas. All up, her epic 3 months cost her just, and I can't believe this, $5,000 New Zealand, less than she had budgeted for, and just $55 a day. And it's safe to say that she has well and truly caught the travel bug. When we spoke, her Rabobank savings account still held $25,000. So she'd gone away and had an incredible time, come home to begin working again, and immediately started stashing cash for the next adventure, which is still a little unknown at this stage. So all up, if you've been keeping track, this 19-year-old has a net worth of about $42,000, plus employment skills that people want and a zest for life, which is contagious. These are accomplishments that she should be incredibly proud of. So now that she is back, her plans for 2024 have been taking shape. And when we spoke, she was getting organised to begin 1 year of study. She was working every hour that she could to earn more money to tuck away. But she will not be at Otago University or Otago Polytechnic. Nope. The experiences she has had while she travelled and the wide range of people she's been able to korero with have helped her narrow down her field of study to an outdoor leadership course on the West Coast. The thought of being stuck in lecture halls for 3 years had no appeal anymore, and she loves the great outdoors and thinks that this course will give her a core set of skills that she can take in many different directions. The course is fee-free, but she will have to pay her living costs at their student accommodation facility of $166 per week. All her food and transportation costs are covered when she's out camping and tramping as part of the course. Remember, I mentioned that her parents had been investing a small amount of money each week for a number of years to be used for education? Well, they will give her $200 a week for each of the 36 weeks of her course, a total of $7,200. Also, as an unexpected bonus, her grandparents have also just let her know that they want to contribute $5,000 towards her year of study, which they will also pay out weekly at $139 a week for 36 weeks, meaning that in total she will have $339 a week to cover all of her costs, an amount she said she can easily live on. Her New Zealand and European travel adventures brought her into contact with many people who were living on remote farms, and she saw how fulfilled they were with very little. She noted they counted every dollar and bought only what they needed, and it made Josie realise that the simplistic way of life is genuinely possible, and she's putting those habits into practice now. So not only is she all set to live carefully below her means, if she calculates it wrong, she has a plan B, a bank account called Emergency Fund, which has $2,000 in it. A tip her mum taught her years ago: always have an emergency fund. While she travelled in 2023, she always had this money sitting in an account as backup, and particularly when she was overseas, it gave her confidence knowing it was there if needed. In fact, she said, if she budgets well, she is relatively confident that she might not even have to touch her money this year, meaning that one day, when she works out the next step in her life, she'll have some money there to help her achieve her goals. She may also pick up some part-time hospitality work in her new town of Greymouth, and she will size up the opportunities when she gets there. Her costs remain minimal. She is taking her bicycle to the West Coast with her because she still doesn't feel the need to even own a car, and her biggest expense in the last 90 days has actually been the purchase of a really high-quality rain jacket for all the outdoor adventures she's going to have on her course. She knows there will be people on the course who will have cars and will be able to offer them fuel money if they happen to be driving somewhere that she also wants to go. And once she settles into the flow of her new course, if she has any additional money, she'll invest it in her Superlife investment. This is her long-term investment, and the money she thinks she will need in the next couple of years will remain in her bank. Already at the age of just 19, she understands the difference between short and long-term money. Short-term money is needed in the next 1 to 5 years and should be held close at hand in a bank and not at the risk of fluctuating share markets, but longer-term money can be invested and will grow over time. So once again, she sought out opportunities which happen to cost very little, yet make her very excited for her future. So where does she see this outdoor adventure course taking her? At this stage of her life, Josie knows that she does not want a 9-to-5 indoor career. She would love to be able to work seasonally and outside, and hopes in time that this might take her into some human resources type work in the adventure tourism industry, perhaps. New Zealand-run outdoor courses are very well respected internationally, and having travelled a little already, she's pretty keen to live and work overseas again one day, and this course should make her attractive to employers. I asked her how much money she might make from these sorts of jobs. Currently, she has no idea, and I suspect that as her year unfolds, she will become more aware of career paths and remuneration. I liked how Josie works hard to earn money and is careful with how she spends it, but that mentality is not limiting her to thinking small, that is, how little does she need to make just to survive? Instead, she is thinking that if she can live on less than she earns and invest the difference, then she can create a second source of income from these investments outside of her day job that can fuel her adventures, which is why I continue to encourage her to invest a portion of every dollar earned from the very first dollar made. There will never be a right time to have money to invest. So just baking that investing habit into your life early will give you options in the years ahead. While her income was high at the cafe and her costs low, I encouraged her to aim for 50%. But even if she does some part-time work this year and earns a couple of $100 a week, I'd still encourage her to invest half, because as she's already worked out, she's not really in need of additional income at this time. One day, if she has a family and many more outgoings, she might pull back her investing, but I think that now is the time to invest money that she really doesn't need. I asked Josie why she sees saving and investing as being important, given not too many 19-year-olds would be giving it any thought at all. She said that having money gives her freedom. So even if you don't know what you want just yet, having money when you do work it out is handy. So in the meantime, she won't be touching it unless she needs it, only adding to it if she can. And in line with that, when I asked her what she would do if 10 grand magically arrived in her bank account, she said that she would invest the lot for future growth and future passive income. Some people struggle with living cheaply, but Josie has discovered the secret to doing so, and that is being content in life. This, she said, is her biggest financial triumph. She would much rather go hiking with friends for free than go to brunch. She loves people and has many friends, and she said that it's about shifting your mentality of what spending time together looks like. As I said, during the entirety of our korero, she was sunning herself on the beach with her mates. Their biggest expense would have been the tube of sunscreen I hope that they had all applied. So even at 19, she said that she feels she has made a financial flop, and that was spending the majority of the money that she earned when she first started working at 15. But don't beat yourself up, Josie. It's nice to have that one out of the way nice and early in life. And you can always refer back to the lesson it taught you that a part of all you earn is yours to keep. So spend some by all means, but also invest a portion of every dollar you make. Now, as I said at the beginning of this episode, she talks about money with her mates, but she doesn't just stop at that. She was recently talking to a co-worker about money. Others overheard the conversation, which soon morphed into an entire cohort of co-workers and their partners coming over to her house to chat about Pūtea and what they could do better. Prior to everyone arriving, she wrote a quick list of what she wanted to convey to her audience. She said that a lot about handling money comes down to how you think about it, what motivates you, and working out what you might want money for. When she was saving up to go travelling, when her pay came in, she would ask herself if she would rather spend $30 on a top to wear or a night's accommodation in a hostel. The hostel won. She said that the big adulting stuff, that is, working out how money works, it can be daunting. So she and her mum, they did their best to simplify it and make people realise that it doesn't have to be hard and scary. As many of the people who turned up to her house were also students, Josie was super excited to hand over to them some of the knowledge that she had learned. They all turned up with laptops and baking, and Josie and her mum spent a fun afternoon finding their lost KiwiSavers and setting up sinking funds and automatic payments into them. Some have now made a start on investing, and this is just absolutely brilliant for me to hear. The common refrain is that people don't talk about money. It's not people don't want to talk about money. Many do, and I'm delighted that she quickly pulled a group together and struck while the iron was hot. Now, I'm nearing the end, but before I wrap up, I have another little quick message from today's sponsor. If your finances are holding you back from living the life you want, try Pocketsmith out. They've got the tools to help you make money management easier, and have we got a deal for you? Happy Saver listeners get a whopping 50% off your first 2 months of Pocketsmith's foundation plan. To get your deal, go to pocketsmith.com/thehappysaver. That's pocketsmith.com/thehappysaver. You know, I did foolishly think that because Josie was only 19, well, this might be a quick episode, but not so. And you'd think that after 90 plus episodes, I would have worked out that all people, no matter their age, are interesting and complex with a story to share. Despite her age, she's packed a lot of wisdom into her short life, and I think I can safely credit that wisdom down to 2 key things. Josie just has a great attitude. She's logical and super curious about life and people. This prompts her to give life a go because she is in the process of gathering up life experiences. In a recent podcast episode, number 89, Sam said that his advice for young people at the end of school is to spend a couple of years exploring society before embarking on study. Try everything you can. That way you rule in what you like and you rule out what you don't. And Josie is doing exactly that. The second immensely useful thing in her life that helps her build her wisdom is her whānau, particularly her mum, who Josie said has definitely given her some solid money talks, particularly regarding travel and her future plans. Josie is fortunate that her parents have been on a steep learning curve themselves over the last few years, and it was a matter of perfect timing, really. They could immediately impart their financial knowledge to their daughters right at a pivotal moment when they were teenagers. Josie admits that she feels so fortunate to have learned these simple skills early. Along the way, her mum, and her dad too, I'm sure, has come alongside Josie and nudged her in the right direction, helping her with her CV, dropping her off at a cafe where her chances of getting a job are really good, making sure she signed up to KiwiSaver, setting aside her and her husband's money to support Josie and her sister one day if and when they wanted to study, helping Josie create a banking system with sinking funds and emergency funds. And the support is ongoing as new challenges and opportunities arise for Josie. Now, one last thing that I neglected to mention in depth, but it came up throughout our kōrero, is that as Josie struck out on each adventure, she kept a spreadsheet of where she was spending her money. One email from her during her European trip said that at the rate she was currently spending, she wouldn't actually spend all the money she'd set aside for her trip, which was a good feeling, she said, knowing that money was not tight. I said to her in one of our emails that if you track your pūtea when you don't have much of it and you don't spend much of it, it means you can track or budget your pūtea when one day you have a lot of it. These simple spreadsheet systems that she is creating for herself now will form the foundation for handling bigger sums in the future once her career starts to build and take hold. Even while travelling, I encourage her to always invest a portion of every dollar that she earned, and if she does this throughout life, she will create a large investment that will then provide her with an income to fuel even bigger adventures. And, amazingly, at just 19, she not only gets it, she's actually doing it. Investing needs to be a habit that you start early. So watch this space, everybody. This young woman is going places, and I'm pretty confident that her ambition and zest for life are going to lead her both anywhere and everywhere. And finally, a huge thank you to you, Josie, for chatting with me, and well done to your whānau for the life lessons they are sharing with you. As a parent of a teen myself, I've been taking notes. I look forward to more emails from time to time, Josie. You are always up to something interesting, and I can't see that changing anytime soon. And you know that I'm always happy to help out where I can. So that's all from me this week, and you know that if you want to get in touch, you can find me at thehappysaver.com. Thanks to all the people who do continue to send me such lovely emails telling me you like this podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. But please do share this with your friends. It is the best way that people can learn about the podcast. And I would, of course, love it if you would talk more about money with your own friends and whānau and help me continue to help others be better with money. So until next time, happy saving.